So lots of unpaid consulting. The next one is how many of us do big discounts? So now I have this deal, it's not moving, went from May to June to July, and now I'm sitting in front of him, and now how happy am I with this prospect? We're mad at the prospect now. How do you think that's affecting my tonality and body language? I'm just calling to touch base, you know? It sounds something like that, right? So now I'm just calling to touch base, but it sounds a lot different. And, you know, so the only way I can get him over the phone, I go, hey, Kevin, you know, if I told you I could take 20% off, can we finally get this thing done? I'm tired of calling you up. And now if you don't get it then, oh my God, you just killed yourself. And people in a little nicer than that, I'm over dramatizing, but in the software business, my sales guys would go, hey Chip, can I discount this thing 10%? I think I can get it over the line finally. And you know, and I'm sitting there going, man, I got this pressure coming down from above. I'm like, whatever, go do it. Just get this deal off the table. And then they would get it. What do you think that would reinforce in their mind? The only way I can close deals is to discount. And it must be the economy, right? It's not me. It's got to be the economy. So that's happening. How about this? How many of us have a lot of slow no's? So, and it's just, it took them 4 months. And why do we get slow no's? What's going on at a psychological level with the prospect? You may want to write this down. They're too darn nice. Prospects are too darn nice to tell you no. I didn't want to hurt the guy's feelings, right? He spent all this time doing this proposal, flying to Chicago, back to Newark, back to Chicago, back to Newark. I used to do that. And get a slow no after. Thank God I had an expense account. I wasn't paying for it myself. But man, how much time did I waste? It was killing me. And then ultimately frustration, right? You're sitting there, you go, man, this is killing me. So let's look at two ends of the spectrum. So on this side, the traditional rep, if you're selling B2B, where do you think the entrance point is? I just know this from experience. I built this slide based on my own experience. So I had this Dun & Bradstreet listing of companies in New Jersey in my territory, and they had the president, they had the controller or the CFO, and they had the VP of manufacturing, and VP of this, VP of that, and then whatever the next level was, that's where I'd call in. Because I was like, oh, those guys, they're not going to take my call. If I got them on the phone, what the hell am I going to tell them? I don't know what to say. So people that are traditional salespeople, their entry point tends to be lower than someone who's a trusted advisor tends to start at the C-suite if they're calling into businesses. What do you think just that alone does to your sales cycle? Starting low versus starting high? Short. Yeah, it would shorten it dramatically if you're over here. And someone at the C level, do you think they would be willing to tell you no? Where the people at the lower end, they got nothing else to do, so I might as well shop and do stuff like this, get proposals from people. How about this side? Disingenuous sometimes. We didn't have that word over here. Versus genuinely interested. It's a genuine approach. They seem to really care, like that type of thing. Talk too much, ask good questions, and are good listeners. We're going to talk a little bit about listening skills. Tactical focus versus strategic focus. A solutions focus, let me tell you about my solution, versus the trusted advisor doesn't come in with a preconceived notion of what the solution is. Let me ask some questions to see what's really going on, to see whether or not what I have would even be a fit. Little different approach, right? Again, we saw the picture of the excited sales guy, and someone actually called that one. I like that. Calm, cocky versus confident. You know, and I knew some salespeople, you know, that were cocky type people, right? And they're just not a pleasure to deal with. So I want to talk about, from this point forward, the next half hour, on a new way of thinking, a new way of acting, and an approach that may help alleviate some of the stuff we just talked about. So does that sound fair? Yeah. Sound like a good approach? So old way of thinking versus new way of thinking. It starts with where we think. If I had my big chart that I usually have in the room, I have a triangle. It's called the success triangle. There's 3 things. I don't care what you do in life. 3 things have a factor. You may want to write these down. Top of the triangle is attitude. And our attitudes are really our beliefs. I'll draw this over here. Put a big A up there. Our attitude or our beliefs. The left-hand corner is B for behavior. And the right-hand corner is a T for technique. Technique could also be equated to skill. Behavior is how I act, what I do, right? 3 things. So what I want to start is the most critical part is how I think. Because if you ever looked at self-fulfilling prophecies, how you think affects how you act affects your results reinforce your belief, and you're in this negative cycle. So the only way to stop a negative cycle in anything in life is to, 1, understand and realize that you're in this negative cycle, and 2, say, what do I need to supplant in my brain to begin to think differently, to act differently, to bring a different result? Kind of make sense? I know I'm going kind of fast, but so what's the old way of thinking? most salespeople, my job was to convince you that what I have is the right thing, right? How many of us kind of view that's what a salesperson's role is? I have to be convincing. I have to convince you. New way of thinking, they discover it for themselves through the conversation that we're having. There's no pushing, there's no convincing, right? It's through a dialogue and interaction that they start to discover. And what do you think it is they discover? Do you think it's the features and benefits and the price? Or what do you think it is that they're buying? They're buying you. You're right. So they're discovering that this guy seems to really care. More important than the price, more important than the features and benefits is you. So how do we differentiate us? It's a thin line between winning and losing. And we're going to talk about how we can execute on this. Number two, I felt this every day. I felt pressure. My boss was putting pressure on me. Guess who I was putting pressure on? The prospect. The more I pushed them, what do you think happened? The more they backed off. I made it hard on myself. We're going to talk about a martial arts approach to selling that's a little bit different. And what we're going to talk about is mutual comfort at every step of the way. Because if they're not comfortable, are they ever going to buy from me? You know, I may get some, but I'm going to miss a lot of them. Always be closing. I stole that right out of Glenn Ross. If you haven't seen that movie, highly recommend it. If you've seen it, watch it again. And then if you want to do something really fun, go on to YouTube, do a search on Glenn Ross / Saturday Night Live. And you'll see Alec Baldwin, and he's the key actor in it. Watch the movie, then do the YouTube on Saturday Night Live. It's hysterical. I won't tell you any more than that. I tell you get some fun out of this today. The opposite side, so always be closing is his line. ABC, always be closing. And man, that environment in that room, in the movie, is what I lived in a different industry. That was real estate. I was in high tech. Brutal. This side, the order should be no pressure. It's the outcome of a positive process done well. It really should be no pressure. I've had more people that I've done business with that said, this must have been your easiest sale ever. And like under my breath, I'm like, no, they all go like this. But I go, yeah, oh God, this has just been so incredible. You know, you've been great, appreciate it. So best features, benefits, lowest price wins. How many salespeople do you think walk around thinking that all day long, right? Versus relationship, comfort, and trust is what really wins the deal. So where am I focusing? If I had this mindset, how would that affect my behavior? I'm not going to let you guess at that, though. I'm going to step you through what we might do. How about this one? How many times when I hear the words, I'll think it over, that equates to, man, I think it's going to happen. Let me hope. Let me pray hard at night. Maybe it'll happen. Versus, and this one you may want to write down, 3 key words. Go for no. If you walk out of here with one thing today, if you can understand and I'll teach you how to use that concept, go for no. That'll save you more time, aggravation, and wasted time than almost anything I teach. But you got to learn how to do it. You got to finesse it. So the new mindset, what did this new mind look like? Number one, I write these 3 things down for a mindset. And first is being unattached to the outcome. If my mindset going in is attached to the outcome, meaning I need this deal, I want this deal, I want to close them, do you think I leak? Do you think that thought leaks through how I sound, my body language, the words that come out? So the antidote to that is I want to go in, and it's a conscious effort. I literally have people, and Chris knows, have a pre-call plan. Part of the pre-call plan is, what is my mindset before going in? Number one is I am unattached to the outcome. To the side of that, you may want to write something else down that I teach. Act as if you're financially independent and don't need the business. How would I act on a sales call if I had $20 million in the bank and just did this profession that you're in right now because you had nothing else to do and you don't like playing golf, right? So you just do this because you like it. You just love the business. How would I act if I had $20 million in the bank? I'd be a little different, wouldn't you think, Kevin? So number 2, be genuinely interested. Now that's easier said than done, right? If you've been on 15 sales calls in the last 3 days, how hard is it to be genuinely interested on the 16th one? Especially if the last 14 out of 15 were a no at the end. Makes it a little tough. So you got to work on these things. They don't just happen. And the third one, and most counterintuitive, maybe not most counterintuitive, but fairly counterintuitive, is to be skeptical on a call. Why would I want to be skeptical? Who wants to throw an idea? Why would I want to be skeptical on a call? Anybody?
So you get happy ears?
Oh, bingo! My term. So you don't get happy ears. This is the antidote to one of the biggest problems that most salespeople have, which is a high need of approval, which equates to happy years. So when they hear anything positive, they inflate it. And if it's inflated, I'm thinking, oh my God. You know, and it could even just be driving up, because I used to have happy years. I drive up to this nice building. I'm like, oh baby, would this be unbelievable if I sold this deal? Man, would the kids be proud of me today? And so we start building it up, and then we meet the people, and they're friendly and they're nice, and I'm like, oh man, this can be unbelievable. And then they say, man, I've read some great stuff about your company on the internet. It sounds unbelievable. I think we really need your help. Whew, my ears are like Dumbo at this point. So I got a severe case of happy years. So the antidote is I need to be skeptical on a call. When I hear this positive stuff, if I'm skeptical, what do you think I might do?
Stay calm.
Well, stay calm, that would be good, right? Stop that tail from wagging. When they see the tail wag, that's not good.
Ask a lot of questions.
Ask probing questions. I'd even write this down. Ask difficult questions. Ask tough questions. I'll teach you some tough questions to ask today. So you got to have the antidote. So a new selling system, and Sandler is all about having a system when we're talking about selling. You know, and it's like that buyer-seller dance. If I know where I am, and I know where I'm going next, and when I get that done, I know where I'm going after that, and know where I'm going after that, and I know what I need to say at each step, how do you think that might help me? It'd be like playing football. When I was a kid, we used to play street football. Anyone here play street football? And you know, we'd have a play, go down to the Volkswagen, you go right, you go left, and you know, I'll throw it to the left, or if he's covered, I'll throw it by the Volkswagen. And I'd be the guy running by the Volkswagen, boom, you know, I caught the pass but hit the Volkswagen. And so, you know, having a system, knowing what you're doing, football teams, what do they do on Monday morning? They're reviewing the tapes, they're looking at what went well, what didn't go well, what do we need to tweak? They're also looking at the tapes of who? The next team they're playing. Hey, what did they do? How are we going to counter that? And then from that, what do they build? A game plan, right? They have a game plan. What are we doing? And then they work on the skills for what we need to do to execute that plan. So Sandler's system at a high level is a strategy of how to approach a prospect, and then a set of underlying skills to be able to execute that strategy, if that makes sense. And it starts with establish rapport. Now, when I throw that up, everyone's going, oh my God, establish rapport, yeah, no kidding, right? I know when I first saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, everyone does that. So let me ask you, what is establish rapport in your world? Someone tell me what that is. What's that step?
Have someone like you.
Get someone to like you? Okay, what else?
Something in common that you could discuss. Maybe it's a picture on their desk. Or
Look for a picture on the desk, some kind of cue. A lot of times when I ask this, someone says small talk, right? Does anyone equate, you know, that, you know, rapport kind of thing, you know, that small talk before you get down to business? All those things are good. We just go way, way deeper. And the cool thing is with this group here, I know all of you guys have done DISC, right? Who here has done a DISC assessment? Well, some of you. And so a DISC assessment, what does that tell you about you? It tells you what personality type you are, right? And we're not all the same. Do you ever notice that? You know, we're different. Like my wife and I, and my daughters and I, we're different. And, but it's good, man, if we're all the same, boy, that would be kind of a boring world, right? But do we approach all these different people the same way? See, a lot of people in sales, you know, they learn a system and they approach it the same way. So building some deeper skills to understand, I'll teach a couple quick ones here. One, match and mirror, you may want to write down. And where we are is on the second page of that sheet, if you flip over on the second page. Establishing rapport is really, how do I build some trust? Start to at least get that wall down. Understand that when I walk in, that wall may be up. How do I get that down? So matching and mirroring is under the guise of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. Anyone here ever hear that term before? Cool stuff, isn't it? So I could do 3 hours just on that topic, but just at a high level, matching and mirroring. If I'm with a D, and Ds, for those of you who have been trained in DISC, are very decisive people. That's where the D comes from. They're decisive, they're takes action people. They are not the ones that sit around and chat. So if I'm the chatty guy and I'm meeting with a D, but I just do my stuff, because my system is wing it, I just walk in and I treat you like I treat anyone else. Hey, how you doing? Oh, the weather out there. Do you see the Giant game this weekend? Oh, I see your poster on the wall there. How many people do you think go, they were in sales, walk in the room, oh, I noticed that poster on the wall, that giant poster. How many what percent of salespeople do that thing? 100. I don't do that. Unless it is something I truly have, like if it was the Giants, I would say something about it. But if it's the Jets, I don't even want to get into that discussion, right? Because it's not going to be positive. So, and I'm not going to go much further than that. But bonding rapport is way beyond, the thing on the wall. In fact, Sandler kids about it. What does he say, Chris? Selfish, selfish, selfish. So if a guy had a sailfish on the wall, every single salesperson walking in goes, whoa, something selfish. How do you get that? And you get the guy talking about everyone else did it. Another thing you may want to write down, if everyone else is doing it, stop doing it. Whatever it is you're doing, don't do it. Because if we're all doing the same thing in sales, what does that make us?
Traditional salespeople.
Well, one, I fall into traditional salesperson, but number two, I become a commodity. If I'm just like the last guy that came in, same white shirt, button-down collar, red tie, dark suit, stripes. IBM made you actually wear the same kind of shoes. The sole had to be a certain thickness. It had to be wingtip. They're not allowed to do that today. But back then, I mean, it was a uniform. Everyone looked the same. They walked the same. They said the same thing. And, so we want to differentiate ourselves by being relaxed, by being different, by picking up on the subtle cues that no one else sees. Like, are they a D, an I, an S, or a C, and how do I sell against that? Match and mirror. So if they're a D and I'm not D, how can I be more D-like and less I-like? If I see that they're relaxed in their posture, sit in a relaxed posture. Because people like people who are like them. So, and Tommy had said, geez, one of the things is, man, you got to be likable. Well, to be likable, people like people who are like themselves. You ever notice that? Your friends, they think like you, they act like you, they do stuff you like to do. So what we have to be is a chameleon. You may want to write that word down here. You got to learn to be a chameleon. You got to stretch your comfort zone to be not the who you are. You got to be the way they are. A new golden rule I'll give you here today. Treat others as they wish to be treated, not the way you wish to be treated, right? So the new golden rule, the twist, is treat others the way they want to be treated.